Today we have a delicious and easy recipe for you. It's homemade applesauce cooked in the Instant Pot. With just a few simple ingredients and the help of this amazing kitchen gadget, you'll have a warm, flavorful applesauce ready in no time. So let's get started. First, let's get our ingredients together. You're going to need 6 to 8 apples, and you can choose. There's different varieties depending on how sweet or tart you like your applesauce to be. You want to peel, core, and chop the apples into about 1 to 2 inch squares. And then you also need between 3/4 and 1.5 cups of water, depending on how thin you want your sauce to be. You want about 1/4 cup of brown sugar is what I prefer, but if you prefer, you can use granulated white sugar. And then about a teaspoon and a half of ground cinnamon, and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So now that you have all the ingredients together, it's time to start cooking. First, we're going to add the chopped apples to the Instant Pot. And you want to carefully place the apples into the pot liner and spread them evenly. I prefer to have the liner out of the pot while I'm doing this. That way nothing drips down the side of it. Next, we're going to pour in the water, and the water is going to help create steam, allowing the apples to cook evenly and become tender. Then we're going to add a little bit of flavor to our applesauce by adding the ground cinnamon. And I like to add some salt to it as well, just to help bring out the sweetness. I know that sounds kind of odd, but salt does help bring out sweetness. So I'm going to put in about 4 or 5 shakes of the salt shaker. That's not going to be any more than 1/4 teaspoon, and maybe even start at 1/8 teaspoon and then taste it after it's done. So that's going to give it that warm and comforting taste by having the cinnamon in there too. Then we want to add the sugar. Remember, you can adjust the amount of sugar according to your preference for sweetness, and you can adjust by adding more to it at the end after it's cooked. So I would just put in what the recipe calls for to start out with. Then we want to put it into the Instant Pot. We're going to close it and make sure that the pressure release valve is set to sealing. Then we're going to set the cook time by putting it on either pressure cook or manual, depending on the version of your Instant Pot. And you're going to cook it for 5 minutes on high pressure. Once the 5 minutes have passed, you want to allow it to naturally release the steam for at least 5 minutes. I took mine off at 5 minutes and you'll see the results, but you could let it go 10 to 15 minutes until it completely releases on its own. Otherwise, like I did, you can just go ahead and finish releasing it. Then go ahead and open the pot, and you want to, I just used a spoon to stir this up. If you want to get it really fine, you could use a potato masher or a fork and mash the cooked apples. You're just looking to get it to the consistency that you want. I did not want it completely mashed because my family likes more of the chunks in it. You do that as you want to. If you want it really smooth, then I would say either use a blender or an immersion blender for it. And then here you have it. Our applesauce is ready to eat. If you want it to be thinner, now in this example, I use the full amount of water. If you want it to be thicker, then I would say use 3/4 cup to a cup at the most of water. And I put in the full 1.5 cups on this one, and so that's why it's thinner. I'd like to know how you serve your applesauce. Do you have it with pork? Do you have it as a dessert? Do you have it any other way? Leave in the comments how you're serving your applesauce, and if you made any adjustments to the recipe, leave that too, so that anyone who's watching this after you can see what you learned and what worked for you. And also, I'd like to know which type of apples do you prefer to use whenever you're making applesauce. I vary mine every time I make it, so I haven't decided on which one I really like the best. Anyway, that's it for today for this recipe. It's quick, it's effortless, it's an easy way to have a hot, warm treat in the wintertime, and you can refrigerate it and have it nice and cool on a hot summer day. So it's good year round. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more delicious recipes and cooking tips and household tips. Until next time, happy cooking.